Game 2 of LGD Gaming versus Vici Gaming. As we load ourselves in, we're going to find Vici with a 1-0 lead after the previous game. I'm Baseskip. Joining me today is Scant. Scant, how you doing?
I'm doing alright. The sun's up, bright and early.
A bit more
just
awake
hit
now?
about 6 a.m.
Nah, nice.
Yeah, a bit more awake.
Alright, so...
And LG ban out the Nature's Prophet right at the start again, so not prepared to deal with that one.
Yeah, I mean, it seems reasonably strong at the moment. The buffs that it received were super fundamental. I mean, treant damage and base int, both great. You're using them the entire game long. And I guess it is a somewhat key element of the global strat, or the somewhat global strat that we saw VG running yesterday. So it looks like they're just not keen to deal with it at all. I am a little bit surprised at VG's bans getting rid of Oracle and Night Stalker here, so I'm not quite sure what to make of that.
The Oracle they actually banned last game as well, so I guess it's like a hero they don't want to deal with. The Night Stalker I'm also unsure about. Night Stalker did get some small nerfs in this patch, but I mean it's largely speaking the same annoying hero it was in terms of like getting the Aghanim Scepter and just having unfair vision of the map and control. Sometimes when people ban Night Stalker, it means they're setting up for certain kind of picks, like maybe the Ember Spirit. That's at least around the time of the Frankfurt Major, that's what it felt like. It's the hero that it deals most directly with, but can't be too sure actually. It could just be like, hey, these are heroes we don't want to deal with right now. Early on in a new patch, that's often what bans are going to be. It's not like we've decided these are the best heroes. It's just like, this is something we've dealt with once or twice and feel like we don't want to deal with right now while we're figuring out what we want to do.
Yeah. So Vici Gaming aside, and this game aside, what's your take on Oracle in general? I haven't seen him in that many competitive matches so far this patch, but I'm interested to hear your take.
So what I really like about the Oracle is that you've got, other than the ulti, you've got 3 skills that can be cast on both allies and enemies for like completely different purposes, and I think that makes for an interesting hero. I can't think of any other hero that's ever been in the game that works that way, where you've got like essentially 6 different skills because you're using it for the opposite purposes when you use them on allies or enemies. I also wanted to say that I don't know, in terms of like how good it'll be in competitive, I feel like it's just something my opinion on these things is usually, I know it's a bit boring, but it's usually like we need to see it more, we need to see it played out more. The fact that a lot of professional teams are banning it and picking it suggests to me it's probably a pretty strong pick. There's some ways in which it acts similarly to Dazzle. In this, the ulti, I mean, in some ways it's even better than Dazzle, right? Because the ulti makes you unable to take damage for, I think, 7/8/9 seconds. So it's like a double length grave. Obviously with Dazzle, after grave ends, you just are what you are, whereas with Oracle after the ulti ends, you might just instantly die if you took a lot of damage during it. But there's also ways to heal the person. But yeah, just my main thought about the hero is that I like that it's got 3 different skills that could be used on either allies or enemies for different purposes.
Yeah, I mean, we always see versatility shine through, right? Whether it's versatility in your skill set or it's versatility in the roles that your hero is capable of playing. You know, just having those options has always been strong. So yeah, I think I definitely agree with you from that view. LGD, right back to old stuff. This is not looking like a 686 draft at all, aside from maybe the Invoker ban and the Oracle ban. We got Gyro Dazzle on one side, we got Tusk on the other side, and we'll see if Vici Gaming are going to do anything degenerate with their Tusk and do some mid pulls or something like that.
Well, it is what I asked for, right? No Morphling. They're not going to be Morphling with Gyrocopter. This is going to be completely different LGD. They're going to have Silo on a hero that can interact early on, and maybe even more critically, stealing the Dazzle, which I think I mentioned last game. It's the hero that certainly LGD has picked the most in this patch, and both LGD and Vici were picking a hell of a lot of this hero back in the previous patch. So probably, you know, between Dazzle and Tusk, the 2 big contested heroes coming into the matchup and switching around who has which one this time.
Yeah, so Vici don't have the Nature's Prophet, but I would still really like to see the Zeus AA strat, potentially. I think it's really good against both Dazzle and the Gyrocopter, but we'll have to see. FY could have something else totally different up his sleeve here. As it
looks like the
turn to ban.
And that's probably the Burning Bench, because that's how they've been running it recently. And this was at the start of the summit. this was kind of like what they were doing. Almost every game, they were just going for that Burning Venge. And I mean, copied directly from Virtus Pro. Credit to FNG for coming up with the strategy, but it's becoming more and more mainstream. And I mean, I think Vengeful Spirit is perfectly okay as a support pick, but teams seem to be preferring it as a core as well right now, more often than not right now. And it's a hero that, maybe to a lot of people's surprise, Burning actually flourished on quite a lot. I felt like at the summit, I felt like the team looked quite natural playing around the core Venge.
Yeah, and they've still got the option to do whatever they want really from this point in the draft. They've got either the support Tusk or the core Tusk. They've got either the support Venge or the core Venge, so they can take this really any way that they want. The Venge is also quite good against the Dazzle for a number of reasons. If you've got the positive weave running on the enemy team, then you've at least got the Howl to take a good chunk of that away. And Swap is actually probably one of the strongest forms of initiation at dealing with Dazzle, especially if you're a core Venge, because you're going to have the levels to have level 2 or level 3 in the Swap, and it gets to the point where you can swap the enemy carry into your team, burst him down, and the Dazzle just isn't able to get in range to get the Grave off. So I really like the pick from that point of view as well from Vici.
LGD's turn to ban.
Yeah, it's funny because LGD kind of showed at the start of this draft, fine, we're going to be interactive, we're going to pick the Jar, not the Morphling, and Vici, I feel like they step it up one level because Vengeful Spirit is like that much more early game oriented, that much more early pressure oriented.
10 seconds remaining.
Yeah, we're seeing people, like, at least I was casting MDL SEA, the SEA qualifier the other day, and they were picking Vengeful Spirit all the time, and Eski especially. And when they ran it safe lane, they were looking at like taking the off lane tower at like 5 or 6 minutes into the game. Just get a Bassi.
Southeast Asia.
LGD's turn to pick.
I would say Vengeful Spirit is like the top pick in Southeast Asia right now, and it's because we were saying earlier, like Invoker is just like globally, it's a thing. In Southeast Asia in particular, Vengeful Spirits is every game that I've cast as well has been first pick or ban Vengeful Spirit basically. So it's definitely a patch here, I feel like, and moving forward as we see more international events, I'm pretty sure it will spread everywhere. I just need to change the battery in my headphones very quickly. I'll be back in a couple of seconds.
That's no problem. Alright, so what else do we have going on? LGD gonna get rid of the Ancient Apparition, so unfortunately I'm not gonna see... So we're not going to be seeing that AA Zeus, we're just AA at all. And Vici getting rid of a Spirit Breaker and a Queen of Pain, interestingly enough. So I wonder if there might be maybe something like an Ember in the future coming up for them. Maybe someone that's a little bit more split pushy, or just someone a little bit squishier that they're looking to protect here on the middle lane. Because that's the impression that I get with those two bands. Maybe we'll see like a Dragon Knight or something if they want to go into the really heavy push here.
The Earthshake you're talking about?
No, so I was...
up, like, suggesting...
Yeah, well, I was just talking about the Spirit Breaker and the Queen of Pain bans from Vici, suggesting that, you know, maybe we'll see something a little bit vulnerable on mid. So either somebody squishy like Ember, or they're looking to protect somebody's laning phase like Dragon Knight, perhaps, because they're going to go all in on the push.
Fair enough, that makes sense. And actually, Dragon Knight's synergizing very well with Core Venge, I think. Just getting that extra damage, and Vengeful Spirit being the disruption or control in the fight for the Dragon Knight to excel. So I wouldn't be that surprised if that's where they go with this.
Yeah, that would be a very SEA style draft, I think, the Venge DK, but like you said, everyone borrows little bits and pieces from everywhere. And there's actually plenty of strategies that you can look at, and you could say, yeah, SEA were actually doing that first. Maybe it wasn't the strongest at the time that they were doing it, but they do have a lot of strats under their belt. But you are going to get your wish get. We are going to see some Faceless Void this game, it looks like.
LGD's turn to
yeah, so the one thing I'm most interested in seeing with Faceless Void is time dilation, just because it's like most of the hero, the changes you can theory craft. I feel like this hero in theory is just like very blankly, clearly better than the previous version. The one downside being that your Time Walk has a short range, so in terms of the interaction of like catching people out, initiating, chronosphering, it feels almost like you need to buy a Blink Dagger. I believe that's what Ice did yesterday. He went to Treads Vlad's Blink, because otherwise people are going to see you coming when you Time Walk ulti. But other than that, I mean, the fact that Time Walk heals you the way Weaver ulti does, pretty incredible. Time dilation, like I said, I want to see it more, but you get the sense that that's a skill that could be pretty broken in certain situations.
Yeah, it seems especially good this game when you're talking
5
about
seconds
Dazzle,
remaining.
Gyrocopter, and Dragon Knight especially. They've all got, and especially in the case of the Dragon Knight, he's got 2 low cooldown
Reserve
abilities
time.
that he's looking to spam
5
in a
seconds
fight.
remaining.
Gyrocopter with the Rocket Barrage, of course, and Dazzle with
LGD's turn
the
to
Shadow
pick.
Wave. And effectively silencing those using the time dilation seems like it's going to be very strong. So it could be a pretty sweet Faceless Void game here. They don't have the most ridiculous combos with the Void just yet. I mean, Venge is somewhat low range. Razor, I guess, is alright. You do have the static link to combo with the Chronosphere, but this isn't your traditional
remaining.
sort of Faceless Void combo lineup. So we'll have to see.
5 seconds remaining.
Yeah, it's. I mean, he's gonna have extra damage just from the Venge Aura, so there's at least that. But I think you're right. I think that the
Vici
final pick here,
Gaming's
which is
turn to pick.
probably a support pick, will be something that kind of complements the Void, and maybe LGD takes Scarth partially because of that. Like, hey, this is. Yeah, I mean, it's a nice pick for us, but it's also like a very clear block pick.
Yeah, and they got rid of the Shadow Shaman as well, so removing the threat of the Master Serpent Words a little bit from comboing up. I guess that makes it a 3-position Earthshaker here
10
for
seconds
LGD
remaining.
as well, so gonna be seeing a little bit more farm on
5
that front.
seconds
And
remaining.
they've just got a pretty beefy lineup in general between the Gyrocopter and the Dragon Knight. They've actually got a very difficult front line to get through,
wow.
but Vici Gaming, alright, just gonna go for the punch.
So this is
here.
an FY special, isn't it? Yeah, it's a. You kind of know it's an FY hero.
Yeah, he's the support that just doesn't play support, right? Like he's got the benefit
Yeah,
of
it's-
drafting as well, so he's like, team, I'm roaming. You can't stop me.
Well,
kind of.
The funny thing actually is, so something I've noticed about Vici Gaming is that I think that they've started to do better. There's a connection to FY that relates to them starting to do better. Like, he's continued to play unusual heroes, but he's playing greedy heroes in a kind of different way. Where before, for a long time, he was playing heroes that just like farm a lot and become extra cores. Now he's playing heroes that maybe don't contribute that much in a conventional support way, but they're certainly not farming. Like, the support Marana doesn't take a lot off the map, neither does the support
10
Pudge.
seconds remaining.
So I think that's something that helps the team out. A lot of people you might have heard critical of
5
Super in the
seconds
past
remaining.
saying, oh, he's always underfarmed. And if you look at the stats, the games where Super's underfarmed is usually where FY is overfarmed. So that's like a direct trade-off. And I feel like there's been a conscious move in Vici Gaming in the last month or two to say, hey, FY, okay, you can do some fun things, but try not to take all the farm off the map because that's why our cores are ending up underfarmed.
Yeah, and I feel like it kind of opens up the draft a little bit more as well, potentially for burning. If you don't have to, if you're not picking him a hero that has to transition or can transition into the jungle early on because you're trying to make room for FY to become that, 4th core in the game, then you can pick these more aggressive things for burning. We have still seen a decent amount of the core Vengeful Spirit heading into the jungle somewhat early on with an HOTD, so that might also happen this game, but they've at least got the flexibility a bit more now.
The catch in Vici's draft here is just insane. I mean, you can get
Yeah.
hooked, you can get swapped, chronoed, ice shot, blocked. Like, everyone except Razor's got a way
30
to catch you
seconds
out,
to
and
battle.
LGD are gonna have to be quick on their feet and ready. And I think there's a lot of work for RTK and DDC, especially in terms of saving people that could be done this game.
Yeah, I think the Pudge is also especially good against this sort of 5-man pushing style that LGD
He's
have
got the hook.
in the lineup. Oh, not gonna grab it there. But yeah, just having hook in general, and especially if you're able to pick up an Aether Lens and God forbid an Aghanim Scepter,
The battle
the
begins.
as you're sitting around sieging a tower, the chances of somebody getting hooked eventually just approaches 1. So it's going to be tough for LGD. Their positioning is going to be extremely important whenever they try and approach an objective, because if one person gets caught and that person gets bursted down, then that point that you just raised about not being able to escape becomes all the more relevant, because it might not just be the one kill. If once you're committed against VG, it's probably all or nothing at that stage.
And that's so frustrating. I'm just watching the trade at the top lane.
Rocket
and
barrage
SSS
into
just kind of
time
walks.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Gyrocopter is so used to being able to bully people just by like, okay, Rocket Barrage, now you need to go back, and he's like, no, I'll just take off all that damage.
Super's taken a lot of damage on the mid lane already. Oh my god. We are going to see these mid pulls from Fenrir gaze upon the face of 686 and weep. This is what we're going to have, at least for the next little bit.
It's funny the route they take, right? I've noticed on both sides the ancients like take some kind of like they stop off in some trees on their way back to their camp each time you pull.
Yeah, they try and hug like as close to the.
Okay.
Oh, Fenrir. Alright, yeah, but they seem to try and like hug as close to the ancient camp as they possibly can. Like they're constantly trying to find the shortest path back. But
Radiant's middle tower.
alright, they got the pull, but he died, and now the camp is double stacked. So I don't think he's actually going to be able to get any experience out of this anymore. Especially since it's dragons and thunder hides. That might actually be the worst combination for him because it's going to kill the creep wave extremely quickly. So he's not really going to get anything out of it, I don't think. Faceless Void, tons of damage top lane, but does manage to survive. Tom walks back up a little bit more.
That would be a novel way for Icefrog to balance the ancient pools. Just like give the ancients like some freak chance to like out of nowhere to, like deal triple damage and kill you. I mean that's not what happened there. He just underestimated their damage, I think. But you know, I think that would be cool. Instead of like stopping you from being able to pull, just make it like extremely life-threatening
to the hero. Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be. There are definitely plenty of ways to go about it, but I think something needs to be done. I get a nice plasma field here on mid from Super.
Yeah, I was gonna say MMI is busy dying. I don't think he will die, but if he were to take, I think 2 hits after that, he probably would die. No reason he should. He could just get back after unpause.
Yeah, he's actually quite low. What, 250 HP?
It's still gonna damage him again as well.
Yeah.
The plasma field.
Yeah. And this looks like there's one auto attack that's right at the end of its windup at the moment. I think he'll be alright, but who knows? Maybe he's gonna be forced to run over and just pass him a bottle sip. And that would be, I think he'd probably survive for sure there. RTK just blocking at the offlane a little bit at the moment. Already has his level 2, but what else do we have going on? We've had the pull blocked out by the Dire. So LGD, when they made that rotation through right at the start, I did block that out, didn't point that out, but Sentry Ward was unsuccessful in finding the D wards. So what has FY been doing with this time at the moment? No stacks or anything set up just yet. I guess the one thing that he could do is he could potentially try the safe lane pull with the big camp, where you hook it out and it loops all the way around and intercepts the creep wave. But you know, it's sort of in the style of the old Rubik pulls that people did a little bit. But at the moment, it looks like he's just gonna roam.
Yeah, I think he needed to get himself level 2. Now he feels confident, and actually, looks like he's gonna go for the hook in mid lane.
Yeah, got the mind game, aimed for the juke, and easy first blood.
Dire's middle tower.
That's like I think that's the most frustrating death you can get to a Pudge, because he just like walks straight into the lane. He's not like, you know, groping around or anything. Walks straight up to you, hooks you, and that's that. Like, I think that kind of gets in your head that Razor can just blink you, Pudge can walk into the lane, and suddenly you die.
Yeah, there's absolutely nothing subtle about it. It's just Pudge runs up and almost has level 3 now, so level 2 could be coming up before too long. Fenrir just denying another wave of creeps. Maybe he's going to come up and try and at least steal some experience here. Still pretty tanky. Does get hooked back. Got some rot damage going on. So maybe just accepting his fate. Is he just going to try and die to the neutrals here? It does manage to. Good use of the breathe fire. And Super's actually also going to die to the neutrals. That's what, 3 lives claimed by Ancients now and only 1 actual kill. Oh boy.
Well, these, yeah, that's what they should do. The Ancients should level up when they make kills. These dragons should be like level 5 black dragons now, whatever. Well, actually, but they start level 6. They should be level 12.
So what the new strat is with Chen, you just get your eggs, then suicide a whole bunch to the Ancients to level them up, and then you have your ultra black dragon. I mean,
works for me.
Yeah, no, I don't mind Chen buffs. I'm alright. Fair enough.
RTK nearly went down the bot lane to burning, and actually FY looks like he's trying to make a rotation around to threaten RTK. I don't think he's been spotted anywhere, but RTK is just playing the defensive game, might be going off to fish the lane, or yeah, just pulling it back a bit before he goes to base.
Yeah, FY looks like he's just going to set up position here. Checking in on the CS, how are we doing? Super doing just fine on mid lane. 19-6 against the Dragon Knights, 11-1. It was already going to be tough enough for the Dragon Knight without the Pudge rotations, so yeah, maybe not having the best of times here. Not the flashiest hero either for him to be playing, so we'll see what he can do. Has his team set up any stacks or anything for him at the moment? No. What have the LGD supports actually been doing with their early game? We saw MMY zoning on mid lane for a little bit, and I think he came top to zone out the Void, but hasn't really been doing anything since, though I guess the Void is a little bit behind the Earthshaker at the moment, though not all that much.
So this is definitely well, actually ISS is in trouble here because the silence, I don't think he's going to be able to, yeah, no time walk and he will go down, but definitely a contrast to the previous patch where toward the end of 6.85, almost every game in almost every region we saw mid lane started as dual lanes, but it was usually like a Bane or a Scarlet or something, just like harassing for both sides, the supports. And what Vici have shown in both these games with FY and the Mirana and other patches, they have no intention of having supports standing in mid harassing, but they do have one that's going to gank the lane. And it's much more difficult to deal with that because you can't just like plonk your own support there to cover unless you're going to have them there indefinitely. If they're trying to harass, you can walk in and harass them back, but if they're trying to gank at something else, and maybe he's really suffered in both these games with 2 early deaths both times. So pretty clear that Vici Gaming kind of like targets him a bit.
Yeah, it's been really interesting to me to see the progression on how supports choose to influence the mid lane. For years and years, it was pretty much just ganking mid if you were going to do anything as a support to change things, and then we had a couple of patches of stacking mid, and it was only stacking mid, really. Nobody bothered trying to gank because you knew that the opposing supports were also going to be stacking mid, and so it was kind of difficult to do anything. And then we saw the emergence of sort of the Bane zoning and all that stuff recently, and it looks like VG are now kind of back to ganking the mid lane.
Oh, here's the hook. Oh, not gonna hit. Expecting maybe to run back into the hook and maybe just kind of stood his ground.
Yeah, I mean maybe
but it gets into. I mean,
him, so.
Yeah, it just worked out. I mean, what does get into your head though, playing against heroes like Mirana and Paj, and back when these heroes were, well, Mirana at least used to be popular as a support. After just seeing the hook enough times, whether or not you've died, I mean, it's worse here because he has died once or twice and he has died once to the hook. But you start, you know, stressing about it, and it's already a very difficult lane to deal with, and now there's this other thing you need to be thinking about, it's the Dragon Knight, and yeah, there's a ping, I think RTK is saying, I'm going to place a ward here for you. Then you don't have to stress so much about Paj, yeah.
And ward placement was not spotted by the Vici Gaming observer wards, so yeah, they're gonna know that FY is over here now. The information isn't really gonna help maybe at all, though. He's still forced to just sit back here. I guess now he knows 100% for sure that FY is looking for him instead of just gambling with his life, but not really getting anything so long as FY is.
Oh, SSIs again, in trouble.
Sounds up. Long duration Ancient Seal, 2 points already for MMY, and that is just another straight up kill.
Yeah, so this is part of the, we set this Garth because of block pick with the combos of the Void, but it's also like definitely one of the better supports to deal with the offlane Void, and I mean, who would have known, because the hero's only been around in its current form for not too long, but I think it's well theory crafted by LGD that the Ancient Seal is just gonna, like, you know, completely destroy the hero. Like, before on Void you still had at least the backtrack, but that's gone, so it really is just about your time off.
Yeah, silences definitely seem like the way to go about it. Or you need perfect chain stun. But even then, you mess up a little bit, and all of a sudden Void survives the burst because he gets the time walk off. So this seems like a very one and done kind of counter for LGD, which is quite nice. And with these kills, MMY's been able to pick up some arcane boots. So he's had a pretty successful early game. Looks like maybe ducked into the jungle a tiny bit. RTK is still just chilling out mid, though I'm not sure what he can really do. If maybe he gets hooked over to the opposing high ground, I feel like he might still die anyway, just if he gets blocked in by shards or something like that. And LGD still being pretty efficient. They've sent DDC down to bottom to soak things up a bit. Another silence on the Void, but this time around he's kind of out of range of the rocket barrage, it looks like. The dive continues though. No backup coming in. There is a TP, gets the time dilation off, slows the gyrocopter a little bit. Haste from the Razor as well. Wants to get something done here if he can, and Mine's in trouble, but Sylar with the call down is going to be the obstacle. Just another kill on the Void. And they get the
Time Walk actually has a pretty big cooldown until you've maxed it out, so they just kept the chase there because they realized they're a lot faster than the Void. Doesn't have any boots. Gyrocopter actually has phase boots. So he's really just not safe in general in this lane right now, and it's super important that LGD have done so well in the safe lane. Because one of the things it did is it allowed RTK to rotate around the map DDC could go to the off lane, get some experience. That means RTK can be freed up to come place this ward, to cover the mid lane. So I think that the success of LGD safe lane can't be understated because it's given them freedom all over the map they wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yeah, and they've got themselves some really good levels on the supports. Level 5 on both the Dazzle and the Skywrath. I mean, not crazy, but they've both got quite a bit of gold as well with the Arcanes picked up. Pudge, also level 5, has his Arcane Boots right now. Probably going to be seeing the Aether Lens before too long, if I had to guess. What kind of build are you hoping to see out of the Razor this game? Mech has really, really fallen out of favor.
Well, there's a
it
hook at
seems
the
like SNY is the... You see? Wave TP, but swap.
By what right?
Yeah, SNY has been the kind of go-to build on Razor recently. I think that's because Fat has been playing Razor like every game for Liquid, and that's his build, and he's like the Razor player. So, I mean, I don't know. It's a different region. Chinese DotA, it could be different. Super certainly got his own experience on the hero. I would agree with you though that Mech is. I don't know actually, because Mech's fallen out of favor, but they've got the kind of lineup that wants to have a Mech, and I don't know how quickly Tusk is actually going to get the gold for it. But I do feel like with the core of Venge and Razor and Void, they're going to be wanting to group up reasonably early. Ice actually goes down again at the top lane, so I mean I believe his offlane Void went really well yesterday, and today so far it's 0-4, pretty much the only kills on the board for LGD, and struggling to get to that level 6.
The Time Walk unfortunately just isn't any safety at all. Like, he saw them running at him, Time Walked, and then the concussive shot caught up, and he just got dropped into a cooldown, and that was the end of him. So he really needs something from his team to be able to catch up a little bit. Unfortunately, Vici have pretty greedy supports in general this game, with Tusk and Pudge both trying to take up lanes, so there wasn't really anywhere for him to go. Dragon Tail into a Mystic Flare mid lane. FY's gonna get caught and brought down. Burning comes TPing in, looking for something to do. Get the snowball onto a couple. Super now draining damage out of maybe. Caldown's gonna come in. They swap back onto the Dragon Knife, but he's still very tanky. And now in comes the Grave just at the right time. Dazzle arriving to this fight. Super still quite slow. Concussive shot also gonna keep him back and away from this fight. RTK ready with the Echo Slam. Is going to come down onto the low ground. He drops it. Can they actually finish up this kill? He didn't have the Fissure or the Enchant Totem off cooldown as he went in for that one. Sylar was also a little bit further back. Does manage to come charging back in with the Rocket Barrage. But they end up losing 2 when I think they could have potentially gotten that kill with nobody going down. So it does end up being a 2-for-3 trade overall. Pudge dying right at the very start. And numbers favoring LGD really substantially there.
Yeah, Vici have got to feel good about the fact that they get those 2 kills at all, because it really did look terrible for them at the start. I mean, the biggest plus for them really is that Faces Void can finally like farm boots or whatever it is he's going to buy, can finally get level 6 in the offlane. Yeah, I don't know. For me, what shows in that fight is how highly these teams value the Dazzle right now, and what a difference it is that LGD have the Dazzle this time, because there were some really good ice shots by Fenrir which might have turned the fights around, but because of the Grave, they just didn't do the trick.
It was really unfortunate for VG losing the Pudge the way that they did right at the very start of that fight. Just getting no damage done whatsoever. He's had a pretty significant investment from his team. I've seen him, he's got 14 creeps, he's had some time on the mid lane to get these levels up, and he is going to be really important in stopping the LGD 5-man. We talked about it right at the start of the game, that Pudge is somewhat hard to push into, but that's only going to happen if he has the levels and the items to really be threatening.
Yeah, Pudge and Venge and Tusk, yeah, it's just like, it's a bit of a nightmare actually to go against this draft. And again, the very good thing going for LGD is that Ice is like a non-factor so far in this game. He did manage to catch up quite a lot there. He got the boots, he got the level 6, but we're still yet to see him make a sort of positive contribution rather than just, okay, fine, he's not feeding anymore. But
0-4 and 0, not the most impressive scoreline in the world. DDC, we're yet to see what his item's going to be. I wonder if he considers going for a relatively early Force Staff, maybe even Force Staff as his very first item. If he's really worried about the swap and the hook getting people out of his range, then I think the Force Staff really helps for that. It's also a pretty good Glimmer Cape game, so we'll see what he ends up opting for.
There's also, I mean, it's much more expensive, but there's a Lotus Orb protects against swap wall, or there's actually a swap into the mid lane, but Haste Rune on maybe, so he's gonna be totally fine. Yeah, if you Lotus Orb a person and they get swapped, then it literally just like
they just
does
stay
nothing.
in place.
It cancels. Yeah.
Time is money.
Alright, so maybe haste it up, running down bot, gets spotted by this observer ward planted down by Fenrir. They got 2 people pinned underneath this tower. Should probably be TPs available for Vici Gaming, but with only 2 people here, this might take a little while. They're going to be able to snowball through a lot of this damage. Only the second hit of the cooldown coming in will catch them. Super getting bursted by the rocket barrage. Burning now arriving on the scene. Maybe trying for the TP out. Do they have anything to cancel this? They've got the hook, at the very least, from FY. They get the 2 cores and the shards block. Not going to catch DDC or
coming
MMY,
up.
but Burning's had enough of
It's
it.
got the swap now. And there won't be a grave for a little while, they'll know that. RCK spotted on his way in.
They can both see one another here. They're both got wards on the other side. They're going to swap back into the Dismember. Pretty good positioning. Will they be able to burst him? Yeah, they do manage to, and DDC Grave was still on cooldown, so... Yeah, it looked like the 2 LGD supports and RTK not quite on the same page.
Radiant's bottom
There.
tower is under attack.
Yeah, and FY is building in toward that either lens. Just needs the ring now. He'll probably disassemble the arcane boots when he gets there. Although you do still need the mana source on Page, so I think you often see a Page like disassemble the arcanes then rebuild them afterwards on top of the either lens.
Yeah, could be a decent game to get something like a Yule's as well. Pretty good against the Skyrat Silence. Good at stopping people once they get Graves. Just keep them there until the end of the duration. So that could be something else that he looks at. But yeah, 100% on the money. He's going to need something else to keep them on. Got a big fat Ancient stack over here for Sylar. He picked up the Dominator as the very first item, and I think immediately went to work with the stacking. So it looks like this is going to work out pretty nicely for him. He's #1 on net worth right now. It was just really unfortunate for LGD when they went on bottom that they weren't able to disable the Tusk, because the fact that they completely blocked the Mystic Flare and a good chunk of the cooldown with the Snowball, I think really won them that fight. Because VG were not in position; they only had 2 heroes there, but LGD just didn't quite get the initiation that they were hoping for.
SSI's going for a solo kill at the top lane, decides against using the Kona though, and maybe they turn this on him now because they're still... No, well the Fissure's cooldown is actually
Radiant's
frozen,
bottom
so...
tower is
I
under
was gonna say
attack.
there's a Fissure coming soon, but the time dilation stalled the cooldown and it's only gonna be available right now.
Yeah. RTK, despite the death, still has some pretty alright gold working towards his Blink Dagger. And speaking of Blink, we do have one up over on the Dragon Knight. FY with the Aether Lens complete. Gonna come running up towards top lane. Who's he got vision on? Gonna come throwing it over onto RTK. Does he have the bite available? Let's toss it out. And meanwhile, this is Void jumping up. Echo Slam comes out, however, and it's actually going to be Earthshaker surviving through. Does get brought down by Fender, who snowballs onto the low ground. They just expected the punch combo to find that kill, 100% guaranteed, but...
It's a bit strange because FY wasn't rotting. Like if he was rotting, I'm pretty sure the ES dies before he can cast anything. But chooses not to use the rot, thinks it's kind of like we hooked him into such an advantageous position he's going to die anyway, but the damage output from the Scarlet Mage making it a trade.
Yeah, I think they were just... Maybe he was anticipating that there was just going to be a shards from Fenrir to make 100% sure of the kill, but then they kind of split up going for both the Skyrath Mage kill and the Earthshaker. End up getting them both, so not terrible at the end of the day, but could have been a little bit cleaner. In terms of an overall lead, pretty much nothing in it right now. 0 net worth, more or less. 1500 experience in Vici's favor, as both of their somewhat greedy supports are actually getting some really good levels, both level 9 in fact, at the moment. But LGD somewhat similar, not too far behind.
So yeah, still not sure if there will be a mech or where it would come from the side of Vici Gaming. Raze is very close to SNY. Isis is going for his Vlad's build up that he went for yesterday on Faceless Void, so that'll be something with the Vlad's aura and the Vengeful Spirit aura. They're gonna have a lot of damage, plus the lifesteal on their whole team when they start creeping up. We're yet to see a Chronosphere yet this game, but maybe with Burning's rotation in here, maybe that's the setup that's built into it. I mean, we said earlier that there's not really that much to combo with the Chronosphere, it's more of like just a general tool for control.
Yeah, it really feels like Venge probably even needs to pick up like a
Radiant's bottom
just the
tower
Dragon Lance
is
this
under
game,
attack.
get a little bit of extra range, just so if the Chrono is not ideal, then you can still get some value at RTK. Just going to be left to the hook.
Radiant's bottom
We're going to
tower
pick up
has
that
fallen.
kill. Really unfortunate for RTK that he's had these back-to-back deaths,
Under attack.
stalling his Blink Dagger. That's what, 3 back-to-back, bottom lane, top lane, and now
Dire's
over by the top
structures
rune.
are
I think he'd have it if not for...
Dire's
if
middle
not for
tower
those.
is under attack.
Oh, FY is hunting, he's got the deep ward, he might actually find DDC here.
Dire's top tower is
He's
under
gonna pull
attack.
back.
Dire's top tower has fallen.
Isocyce is actually caught up substantially. He's quite a bit richer actually than RTK now, despite the fact that he had a much more difficult early game. RTK started making rotations and got deaths at, as you said, at the wrong times. So it's really cost him.
Yeah, and VG have finally been, the supports have finally been able to swap over and start making space for Isocyce. It feels like initially they were applying a little bit of pressure, but then we had that window in the middle where they were really taking a lot of the farm on bottom and mid lanes, and now they're kind of paying that back by just ganking and moving, and Ice finally gets a really nice safe lane down on bottom to farm up. So they're going to have the mass auras coming up pretty quickly. Pudge has just grabbed some Tranquil Boots. They've got some really good vision around the place as well. The DDC, as I say, that is going to come in here with the sentry and clean it up a little bit. They've got the hook on the RTK. Oh, not again. Poor RTK. It's just unfortunate.
We did talk about this. There's just so much catch. A lot of the time we're seeing like an ice shard set up for the hook or a swap set up for the dismember or the hook. There's just so many combinations of heroes that threaten someone who's on their own. As LGD have gone into the enemy jungle to look for stacks, didn't really find any, and they're gonna try and fight here.
Jumping out of the Sylar, he's gonna get Grave, gets the call down off, in comes the Chronosphere, Fenrir's getting bursted with the Dragon Tail, into the Mystic Flare, FY a little bit off the mark with the hook, running after maybe an MMY at the moment. Maybe does manage to get the blink a little bit further away, slowed down by the time dilation. Meanwhile, the mid-fight just ended up being a 1-for-1, the Tusk going down, and looks like the Gyrocopter dying at the tail end of that Chronosphere.
Yeah, it's definitely a big win for Vici Gaming. They're very happy to throw away their 5-position Tusk for 1-position Gyrocopter. Unfortunate for LGD that the approach to the fight was kind of like they were roping around with the Scarith Mage and the Dragon Knight, but the fight started before those heroes got there, so their attempt to flank ended up working against them, and this is gonna be it. I'm watching like maybe another hook on RTK. Yeah, he does get caught, he gets dismembered. Is it Grave? He should be fine because the Grave.
I just gotta watch FY. When nothing's happening, I just gotta keep an eye on him, because this is it's just gonna be too many random hooks, I think.
They really RTK at least has gotten to his level 11 now, but
he's been on 1800 gold forever, is the thing.
Yeah, it's kind of funny though, because of how long he's been stored and how many times they've killed him. It might be that when he finally hits the blink tag, it comes as a surprise to Vici Gaming. Well, there's another hook, and that's Sylar dead.
Now they get the swap onto maybe again. There's no escape from Vici Gaming. Once you're committed to the fight, you're committed. FY is gonna die to the rot. Got hit by the silence there from the Skywrath Mage, so just gonna end up committing suicide, but that's 2 cores down, and Vici Gaming continuing the pursuit. RTK turns around to punch a ward for a second. That's gonna slow him down a little bit, and Super closes the gap. A few more auto attacks coming in. One more will do it. That's a triple kill for Super. And Vici Gaming more than happy to continue finding kills here. They're going to come back and finish up the ancient stack steal that they started earlier. Oh boy.
Yeah, it's really not been RTK's series. The previous game, I think his Tusk was like 0 for 9 or something at the end of the game. And he struggled early on. This game, I don't know, I mean, he's early on, I feel like he did what he needed to do. It's just like this recently, as you've been saying, he's been close to Dagger forever and just not managing to stay safe, keep himself alive, just to finish the Dagger, which really could have a big impact, but the longer we wait for it, the less of an impact it is, because you gotta imagine that at some point Venge and Razor, yeah, there's Razor's BKB, and Venge probably going to, yeah, Venge, Burnix nearly got a BKB too. Once both of them have BKBs, if you only get the Earthshaker Blink, then there's much less potential for big swings in fights.
Yeah, and Earthshaker is by far their most important counter-initiator as well. You know, in theory, you're hoping that somebody gets hooked, and then the Earthshaker is able to jump in and get a big combo off, and everybody else arrives, and you can kind of save the day. But they just don't have that playmaking potential, unfortunately, right now. I don't know how FY found that hook on mid lane. I don't know if there was just vision, but it looks like they didn't have a ward necessarily in the area. So, and it was nighttime as well. Could have just been totally random, and Gyrocopter just getting destroyed there. Well, with that super.
And ISSS.
What do we got?
ISSS got the blink again. So I think acknowledging very clearly that the one weakness of the current Faceless Void is that you can't catch people out with Chronosphere, but well, now you can. And maybe we've been looking at it incorrectly all along. Like, he's going to catch a big Chrono, and someone's going to get hooked. I think that's really the plan. It's not really about dealing a lot of bursting someone down in the Chrono as much as, like, one person in the corner is definitely get hooked and killed, and maybe Ice attacks another one.
Yeah, and even if the other thing that they could do is if they get the swap or the hook, then Ice just jumps into the back lines and stops anybody else from protecting that hero that they've grabbed. So Gyro gets swapped, he's getting roasted. Yeah, the Zonosphere. I mean, you hopefully still catch some heroes, but you're just stunning them so that the Dazzle can't get in Grave, or the Earthshaker can't get in Fisher, and then your team can deal with them once you finished up the core.
Come on, RTK. Just this camp. I'm pretty sure this camp gives him his dagger.
Double damage.
Yeah.
He's done it. Great success for LGD.
1-6-1. Oh god. It feels like every single death as well has been at the hands of FY in some way or another.
Yeah, this is like, I mean, it's a bit of a throwback back to the days where like Chinese teams would go against Na'Vi and just ban Pudge all the time because it's like unsure how to deal with it. And I think after games like this, a couple more games like this, and Vici Gaming could get a reputation for like FY Pudge, and that's a real strength for a team to have. I mean, I feel like TI5 was won in large parts on the back of EG having heroes that CDC had to ban, just didn't know how to deal with. And any time that you develop this kind of reputation for hero, it's a very big deal. So basically, I think that the success of FY's Pudge in this game is something that could extend beyond the game itself.
Yeah, and he can play all the gimmicky heroes as well. Or, you know, I think gimmicky is even a little bit unfair, as a way to describe it. But he's also extremely solid on all of your regular supports as well. So if you're spending a significant chunk of the draft banning weird stuff, then you're only going to let VG have their other comfort heroes, especially for their other players. It does, not only does it get into your head into the game, but it's also going to get into your head a little bit in the draft. And VG they saunter into Roche, pick it up, absolutely no problem. Super's got his Aegis now, and BKB, full 10-second duration, ready to go. FY gonna miss the hook on the range creep, but does come and finish him up anyway. But LGD priming for a fight, perhaps.
Dire's middle tower.
FY didn't go back for more arcane bits, but he's got the wand and he's building into Blade Mill, so just a lot of mana base in general, and looks like it's doing the trick so far. We haven't really seen him having mana issues.
DK's used the ultimate, gonna jump in here for the Dragon Tail. We got a defensive hook back onto Super, and now we've got the swap on the DK, preventing the Earthshaker from coming in and doing anything. They're gonna burst down maybe. DDC trying to get in for the Grave, even force staffing forward, but unable to do too much more. Super now runs in, they're looking towards DDC, who goes for the self-Grave. Continues to run back. Super's got the Plasma Field in 1 second though, and it looks like that is gonna be the kill. Gem of True Sight fortunately up on the high ground. Super tanking tier 3 damage, MMY. Really nice ultimate.
Silas being chased.
But it's not enough to find the kill in the void. And
On the other side, Silas being chased by the Pudge.
Yeah. It does manage to juke him here, it looks like. Yeah, hook's out of range.
I mean, the way that started, I was watching that part of the fight. Sylar was actually beating Burning, and there was a really nice hook initially by FY to like, kind of like control, break up the fight, and it turned around on Sylar. But Vici won the rest of the fight, the duo casting, so they'll be happy with the day. Oh, just missed time on the hook there. Not sure that he actually makes a kill if he hits that hook anyway. I think there's enough cover that everyone might be in danger.
Dire's bottom tower is under attack.
Yeah, it could be a little bit troublesome. Depends on whether or not the Gyrocopter survives to get the fall down off. Alright. Just gonna back themselves up for now. They didn't quite get the tier 2, but as I say that, it's on its last legs. The Aegis did end up being expended, so I feel like that was actually pretty decent for LGD, all things considered. They didn't buy back on anybody, they managed to keep control of their gems, since DDC very wisely backed up all the way. The fight got split down the middle, but it looked like, on the whole, you know, not terrible for LGD.
Yeah, if Sylar had died, it would have been pretty bad for them, but the fact that he ends up making it out and doesn't get hit by the last hook, very important, I think, for his team.
Alright, so they've got the gem, they're going to 5-man a little bit, they're going to re-establish some control over the map, feel a little bit more confident about not getting hooked by the Pudge, and going to be a little bit less anxious because of that. LGD sizing up this mid-tier 1, perhaps, it looks like, just waiting on some more heroes to get in position. DDC going to hand the last hit over on that ward over to Maybe. He still has quite a bit of catching up to do, actually, this game. Definitely a bit of a gap between him and the other 1 and 2 position heroes in this game. And RTK looping around here. They've got a double blink to come in. Super's gonna get Dragon-tailed. Stunned up, but they get the hook out, saving him from everything. And now in comes the Chronosphere, catching onto 3. Ice Ice drops low pretty quickly. LGD not taking too much damage just yet. Grave comes out into maybe. Might have been just a little bit early. We've got the bite over onto MMY. He's also gonna be focused down the Plasma Field on the punch. Finishing up the Dragon Knight. Tyler just trying for the TP out. Is he gonna be able to get it? No, I think he got bashed by Ice Ice Ice. And that is a 3-for-0 FY in the perfect position for the defensive hook play. Oh,
He's
man.
done everything this game, hasn't he? I mean,
Yeah.
the mid fight also started that way. Razor got initiated on and he hooked him up, and it's like, it's so irritating because the initiation combo for LGD is very much like single points. You stun someone's Scarlet ultis, and if they get hooked away, like all of a sudden there's your initiation. I mean, sure you've got the Earthshaker as well, but a big part of your initiation is bursting one target down, and that target just keeps getting saved.
Yeah, they baited that so nicely. I mean, RTK even needed to... He knew that he had to commit with the Echo Slam because they couldn't afford to have the Razor get his BKB off and just turn the fight around on them, so... There wasn't any time for him to sit and consider, but... FY pretty much single-handedly wins that fight. Really nice Chronosphere as well from Ice Ice Ice, and off the back of that, they're just gonna charge straight down mid with the Aura Strat and clean up a very easy laner X here. Oh my
Yeah,
God.
I feel a bit bad for LGD. LGD picked like I said at the end of the last game, I want them to have a more interactive draft, like not pick the Morphling, and they did pick a more interactive draft. Their heroes do a lot of things early on. They were making kills in the early game in the safe lane. It's just like, what are you meant to do against this Pudge if he keeps landing hooks? It's just like in like a twisted way that also makes the game uninteractive because you're always fighting from a disadvantage. He's hooking his allies out or hooking enemies in, like it just like it distorts the regular dynamic of an interactive team fight so much that despite the fact that they've picked into like, hey, let's have these fights early on, they're not getting to really have the, I guess what you'd call a fair fight.
Yeah, and they keep trying to get the initiation themselves. We got another smoke coming out, but unfortunately not going to find anyone here. VG have picked up a gem of their own, so are feeling like they're a little bit in the dark after LGD swept through earlier with their own gem and cleaned things up. Roshan is at least 2.5 minutes away, so we won't be seeing that for a bit. And both teams still just kind of vying for position at the moment in the Radiant jungle, but Pudge is always going to be the difference maker potentially if he gets that crucial hook to start things out.
Ice Ice is building into Agnum Sept. It's the same build he went for yesterday. The entire development looking the same, and we saw in the previous fight, it seems like his ulti is almost like being used as a Naga ulti, like reset the fights. I mean, he gets some hits off, but it's mostly like, you know, his teammate had been hooked out, they got to regroup, reposition, make new decisions about how they were going to go back into the fights because the enemy team had been chronoed.
Yeah, get some drain charging up for the Razor, consider who they're going to be swapping out, you know, maybe line up for another hook potentially, but yeah, definitely... It goes against a lot of what LGD are trying to do, which is get in with the Earthshaker and the Skywrath Mage and just blow somebody up right at the very start. So it's making life exceedingly difficult. Even we haven't even had to see a defensive swap out of the Core Venge yet, but that's also something that's going to stuff LGD's initiation, even if they do manage to find the kind of thing that they're looking for. There's going to be Blink Snowball, or there's going to be Hook, or there's going to be a swap. So almost no matter who you jump, it feels like LGD are going to have some problems.
This is the third ancient stack I think that Vici have stolen from LGD's side of the map this game. So just adding insult to injury.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
Oh, that was a nice attempt by FY trying to mind game the blink there, but maybe just manages to get past it. Alright.
Radiant's top tower has been
We
denied.
got top tier 2 going down. Looks like both teams not willing to commit too heavily to anything. I think Vici trying to wait around until the Roshan pops back up. More than likely. Lots of dewarding going on both sides, so expect to see both teams grouped up if they're going anywhere close to the river. Maybe he still needs to farm. I mean, he's actually fallen behind the Void now at this point in terms of net worth. And I guess he's just working on a... I'm not even sure. I was about to say BKB, but BKB doesn't even seem all that impressive here. Almost everything that Vici have actually goes through it, and the bulk of their damage is just right click.
Yeah, it seems like the natural build just to like deal with the extra
Oh, Echo
stun and
Slam,
stuff.
Mystic Flare, Chain Stun. Alright, RTK's Revenge. But that means that they're going to be able to go on bottom lane and just swap back, maybe into the Dismember. Cooldown's going to come in, but it's barely going to tickle. Fenrir wants the kill secure. He's going to fly in with the punch. And does grab that one for himself, but it's just going to be a pick-off trade around the map.
Yeah, and while that all happened, firstly, Isis did finish his Aghanim Scepter before he died, so not really the end of the world. Also, Burning finished Aghanim Scepter on Vengeful Spirits, and this was discussed when the patch came out, and I think a lot of people thought it would be mostly a support pickup, but I don't know. I actually think it's a good pickup. I think it's not necessarily... I mean, the new adjustments is that the hero actually respawns and can cast its spells again, deals half damage. But I think that the old upgrades from Aghanim Scepter on Venge were already really important. It gives that 10-second cooldown, which means that you're always under threat of the swap. And it also lets you swap creeps, which we don't see as often. But there's times where what you want to do to make a kill is like swap just to get yourself closer to a kill and then stun slaying. And then there's a trade-off of like swapping an ally that you didn't want to swap out, and then with the Ags you could rather swap a creep out, just get there. Or alternatively, if you're running away, not have to swap an ally into danger, just swap onto a creep. So I think there's a lot of like small benefits that the Ags on Venge gives, and altogether it's like a pretty valuable package, whether you core or support.
Yeah, he's also got a dominated creep from his HATD as well, so he can just position that, then swap to his creep if he's in danger. Just use it as a pre-planned blink, kind of. That's always an opportunity. Maybe gonna get his Blink Dagger canceled by the Howl, and they swap him back into the punch, gets his BKB off, but he's just getting right-clicked down. They've got the AC, they get the Chronosphere off. Grave is gonna save maybe for a little bit longer, but I don't think it's going to get him out of this fight. RTK also being stunned up. Echo's still on cooldown. They're gonna swap back now onto Sylar, right into the right clicks. RTK, time dilated for now, and just can't get anything off. Triple kill for Super. He wants more, but the GG's being called, and that is going to be the end of the series here for LGD.
3 swaps in 1 fight. I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, good stuff.
But yeah, Vici Gaming, they just like, I don't know, just look like a clearly stronger team right now, in this series at least. It's still early days, it's new in the patch, and like some kind of experimental drafts. I feel like LGD lose out for picking Morph in the first game, and lose out for Vici having a really significant hard-hitting game, like higher gaming impact Pudge in the second game. So neither of them are like the most ordinary circumstances, like the way the patch will develop if we talk about like an average game. But as far as the games themselves go, I think LGD hardly had a shot at any stage in either of these games really. I mean, maybe right at the start of this game when they were dominating Isis, but other than that, it's one-way traffic.